Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. It is that time of the week to go through my updated FPL draft, and there have been some changes not only to the players but also a little bit of my chip strategy as well. If you do enjoy today's video, please do smash that like button, and if you're new around here, make sure to subscribe as well. But without further ado, let's jump into it. So guys, let's jump straight into the draft today and discuss it. Preseason's a funny time, right? It's the only time in FPL where you can have fun tinkering around with players, deciding who you want to pick, and you've got no positive or negative outcome. You've basically got no result to go off, which means that it's very difficult to tell if at any point your draft is any good or not, but you guys will always tell me down below and be very honest. So let me know what you think of today's draft. I am starting to settle on a few players. I'm starting to settle on a rough strategy. You know, some things are starting to fall into place, but we are very far away still from the Game Week 1 deadline. I mean, not that far, but far enough where a lot can still change. Every preseason game that goes by might change your thinking slightly. Different transfers might also change the way we think as well. So with all of that in mind, let's go through it. I am currently still looking at a bench boost early on. I would be very, very, very surprised if I don't bench boost in game weeks 1, 2, or 3. Between game week 3 and 4, there is an international break. So I don't think I want to plan a bench boost after that. If I decide not to bench boost between games 1 and 3, what I'll probably do is just say, I don't have a plan for the bench boost, which by the way, I would say is top 3 best strategies to have, is to just not plan for a bench boost and just deal with it when it happens. And worst case scenario, you just have to play it in a week where your team doesn't look that great or your bench doesn't look that great. It probably won't score that badly in comparison to people that really plan for it. But I think for me, what I would like to do is plan to use it in one of 1, 2, or 3 before that first break. Because, again, I can change all of my players right up to the Game Week 1 deadline. So I think Game Week 1 bench boost makes tons of sense. But the fixtures, they don't quite align for me. So as a result, I have been playing around with over the last couple of days, I was going to say weeks, over the last couple of days, with a bench boost in Game Week 2 and a bench boost in Game Week 3. I think both of them, in terms of fixtures and players, it looks slightly stronger than Game Week 1, but then I keep coming back to the fact of, if Game Week 2 and 3 don't look that much better, Game Week 1 is logically the best time to play it, because again, far less can go wrong, given that you can make unlimited changes up to the deadline. All of that ramble, basically just to say, I would like to play it in 1, 2, or 3. The draft that you're going to see today is a Game Week 2 bench boost, but with 1 or 2 subtle changes, it could become a Game Week 3 bench boost. So bear that in mind, that the plan for this is a Game Week 2 bench boost. So, let's start with the goalkeepers. I have still got Sanchez in goal. I just struggle to look past Sanchez. Last season, Chelsea were top 4 for non-penalty expected goals conceded for most of the season. I think Chelsea are one of the most underrated defences in the Premier League. There's this narrative that they're not a good defence. And there is also a narrative that Sanchez isn't a great keeper. But I've been more impressed with him across the last sort of 6 to 8 months. I think he's making far fewer mistakes. And I could see him having a good season. I want some Chelsea defensive coverage. Sanchez, I think, is the safest and cheapest way to get that. So I really want Sanchez. So for that backup goalkeeper, if I plan on playing the bench boost in the first 3 weeks at some point, I have to have really a 4.5 unless the new goalkeeper that's just signed for Leeds apparently isn't quite ready to start the season. I don't know how true that is. But if that is true, and the belief is that Darlow is first choice, and I think he started both preseason games ahead of Melier, and Leeds fans seem to think he is second choice after this, I think it's Perry is how you pronounce the new signing's name, then maybe we could have a 4 million starting goalkeeper in Darlow. So all eyes on that. The reason I bring that up is Darlow plays Everton at home in Game Week 1, and then I think it's Arsenal away, Newcastle at home, or Newcastle away, but Game Weeks 2 and 3 are against Arsenal and Newcastle. So essentially, if Darlow is the starting goalkeeper, I know it seems crazy that a 4 million goalkeeper can completely change your chip strategy, but that really does open up bench boost 1 again. If I don't bench boost in Game Week 1, I think Verbruggen and Petrovic are the 2 that stand out to me. I'll start with Petrovic. I have just finished watching the West Ham Bournemouth game. Bournemouth don't look very good this season in pre-season, defensively. They are conceding tons of chances. They've lost Kirkes, they've lost Howson, they've lost Kepa, and it looks like Zabani is off to PSG. That's basically all of their good defenders. The only defender that wasn't consistent for them was right back, and that's the only position they've not really lost. So they are in a bit of trouble here. But I think Petrovic is an excellent goalkeeper, and I think Iraola is one of the best managers in the Premier League, so I trust him to find a solution. And in Game Week 2, when I plan on playing that bench boost, he has Wolves at home. So I think Petrovic is a decent shout. Verbruggen hasn't featured in pre-season. There were suggestions that he wouldn't make Game Week 1, but the more recent quotes from Hertzler sound like there's a chance. Steele or Verbruggen, depending upon fitness, is also a good option because they play against Everton in game week 2, which is a fine fixture. So I think one of Petrovic or the Brighton goalkeepers kind of stands out if I'm looking at this bench boost 2 strategy. So it's a lot of money to spend on goalkeepers. That's 9.5 million. I should say the other reason I like Petrovic and a Brighton goalkeeper is in game week 7, Sanchez has a slightly tricky fixture. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's the only fixture that you wouldn't really want to play Sanchez is game week 7. Petrovic has Fulham at home, and the Brighton have, I think it's Wolves away. I'm doing all of that off my head. I should prepare more. So basically, they also rotate in okay in game week 7. So there's the goalkeeper situation. Let me know down below in the comments who your goalkeepers are. And then in terms of the defenders, I am going back and forth on this so much. But what I've done in this draft here is I've just picked the defenders that I want to own. And maybe that is the best strategy because I have spent far too much of my time so far in pre-season trying to work out bleeding fixture rotations with defenders, and then this person clashes with this person. If you pick this 4.5 defender, then they clash with this person in this week, and it's just a headache. I have worked out, and please feel free to prove me wrong down below in the comments. There is not a perfect situation with the defense. At some point, they will clash with one of your attackers. At some point, you will have 2 or 3 defenders that all have bad fixtures. I just don't think there's a way to perfectly do everything where you also are choosing the good options. So what I just did is I just picked 4 of the best defensive options for me at their relevant price point. So let's start with Virgil van Dijk. The fixtures aren't great. Bournemouth at home's not brilliant, but I think it's okay given how much Bournemouth have lost, especially in their defence, and it affects the way that they build up. And then Newcastle and Arsenal, that is not a good opening 3. But in my head, I am going to wildcard in game week 13. That's the plan at the moment. Or maybe a game week 10 if I go slightly earlier. From game week 4 onwards, I'm going to want a Liverpool defender. They've got Burnley and Everton in 4 and 5. So why not just get that in place now? Van Dijk, we know, traditionally carries some goal threat. Not as much in recent seasons, but maybe we'll get that back this season. He's going to be good for defensive contributions amongst those premium defenders. And Liverpool was so good defensively last season. Now, that might change with the addition of Frimpong and Kirkes, maybe Bradley playing more minutes. Let's see about Konate's fitness. But I just think Van Dijk's a very decent option. I think he is my favourite premium defender at the moment. I also think my favourite defender in the game, period, is actually Nico Williams. I've been talking a lot about him during pre-season. He's cheaper than Murillo and Milenkovic. He did take some set pieces last season. He's got good attacking threat from open play. But out of all fullbacks, he is one of the better ones for defensive contributions because of the way Forest play. He will not be as good as the centre-backs, but that's why he's priced a little bit lower. So I think he'll get some defensive contributions, he'll get some attacking returns, he's decent for bonus, and he might take some set pieces. I think at 5 million he offers really nice value. So Van Dijk and Williams, I really like the 2 of them. They've been in most of my drafts recently. And then what I've tried to do is cheap out a little bit. So I've gone for 2 4.5s and a 4 million defender. The idea here is I want to try and go down 2 possible paths. So you can either, with your 4.5s, go for players that get good defensive contributions or players that have attacking threat, right? You can either go for the attacking fullbacks or the centre-backs that will get you those 2 FPL points. I've chosen one of each. So here I've chosen Anderson and Dorgu. Anderson's fixtures aren't great over the opening 3, and I'm going to have to play him in 2 of those. Brighton away this week, he's starting for me in game week 1, and then I will have him on my bench boost against Man United at home in game week 2. The idea is Anderson is going to be a defensive contribution monster. So if he can get me 4 points, if he gets defensive contributions across those first 2 games, that is the same, in fact, 1 more point than going out there and getting an assist. So if I think someone like Dorgu or Juve will get me an assist in the opening 2 games, but I think Anderson will get me defensive contributions in both of them, well, then he's a decent option. And I kind of could see that happening against Brighton and Manchester United. Also, Anderson rotates really nicely in when Nico Williams plays Arsenal in game week 4. Anderson's got Leeds at home. So I actually really like Anderson as a pick, despite the fixtures not looking perfect on paper. And then with Dorgu, I am a Man United fan. I'll be honest, there's some bias here. I just think he's absolutely exceptional. Now, I am recording this, timestamp, 9:41 p.m. on Sunday, which means it is 20 minutes before Manchester United play their pre-season game. I have some worries because Dorgu was not in the starting 11 when it was pretty much a full-strength team, but Dalot was starting at left wing-back. Now, Dalot's probably going to score a hat-trick in this game, and I'm going to look like an idiot, but Dalot is not good enough to start at left wing-back for us. So I think Dorgu is pretty good for minutes. I think his minutes are pretty secure. If you were to ask me how many of the opening 10 Dorgu starts, I would say 9. I don't think he starts every game because we don't want to run him into the ground, but he is so attacking. I would say he is top 5 for attacking defenders in the Premier League in terms of how far forward he gets. If he can improve his end product, he will get tons of attacking returns this season. Against Fulham away in game week 2, I don't mind having him as part of my bench boost. And then Burnley in game week 3 is a really nice fixture. When Anderson's got a tricky fixture, I don't love Estev's fixture. And then Van Dijk's got Arsenal. Like, if I want to rotate Dorgu in there, it's really, really nice. So yeah, Dorgu's a bit of a fun pick. He's a bit attacking, and I've got Anderson for the defensive contributions. I then need a £4 million defender in this team. If I am to bench boost in game week 1, I'll go for Goodmanson, because he's got Everton. If I go in game week 2, which I am at the moment, please let me know phonetically, is it Estev or is it Esteve? I've heard both. I'll go for Esteve because it sounds a little bit cooler. He's 4 million. He's got Sunderland at home in game week 2. I know it's not ideal playing a Burnley 4 million defender on my bench boost, but it saves a bit of money. And I don't really think the bench boost is going to get me that many points anyway. So why not cheap out a little bit for a player with a good fixture? So yeah, that's the defence as things stand. Dorgu, Petrovic, Esteve, Anderson all have fine fixtures in game week 2. And then moving forward, I like all of them, especially Anderson and Dorgu. Like I say, I like that combination of some attacking threat and some defensive capabilities. So that's the defence as things stand. Let's move on to the midfield and we'll see where a lot of the money is spent. So guys, I'm very excited to share something with you today. Please do give me a couple of minutes of your time. If you follow me over on Twitter or you've watched FPL Therapy across the last season, you would have heard me talk about a game called Club, which is a free-to-play fantasy football mobile game. But this is not a normal sponsored section because not only am I in the game, and by the way, I'm screen recording right now off my phone, so you can see me there as the director of football, which firstly is pretty cool. But I'm also a shareholder with Information Games, which is the company that created Club. So if you ever want to know that, again, it's just not a normal sponsored section and I truly believe in something that I'm telling you about, for me to be in the game and a shareholder, it shows you how much I love it. I've been playing Club now for 15 months. I truly believe it's the best mobile game I've ever played. And I just know that you'll love it as well. Everyone that downloads it loves it. It's basically fantasy football, but also mixed with a little bit of FIFA and Football Manager. It has that fun sort of head-to-head element of fantasy football, but you also sort of own your club and upgrade that, and you get to meet with your agents trying to get the best players that you possibly can too. And again, you'll come across me in the game, which I think is pretty cool as well. I really would love for you to download it. It's completely free to download. It is not pay to win at all because it's based on real life. So even if you don't have the best players, they can perform really well and that can shoot up the rankings as well and obviously help you to upgrade your club. So I highly recommend it. If you are going to download Club, please do use my link rather than just searching for it on the App Store. You'll get the same result, but it really supports me. So click the link in the description. Once you've downloaded it, and I'll show you a bit more about it in a second, make sure to join my league. It will be on the screen on YouTube or it will be linked in description wherever you're watching this or listening. Just copy that in and you can join my league. Let's make it the biggest league on Club. And also make sure to create your leagues too. So yeah, there are so many things to look at in Club. I won't go through all of it today. I'll show you what my squad is currently looking like though. And it is looking very tasty. I will admit I spend far too much time on Club, but it's looking really good ahead of the season. You've got the likes of Kudus in there against Burnley, Florian Wirtz on loan, those two are. I also own the likes of Iliman Ndiaye. I've got Tielemans in there, Tarkovsky, Milenkovic. It's a super good squad. The way that you essentially get players in Club is by meeting with your agent. So we're going to do that right now, and we're going to hopefully pull a decent player. This is a one-time take, by the way, so it could be terrible, it could be fantastic. I'm hoping it's someone decent. So what you do is you click on Meet, and then you tap to reveal, and then it will cycle through the rarity. So it's not base. Hopefully it's not core. Oh, it is a core. Of course it's going to be a bad player when I have to do a video. Please be someone usable. Carvalho. Is Carvalho going to get minutes? Oh, it's always the way. Like, I'll get someone brilliant in a few hours when I do this. I'm just going to reject Carvalho. Carvalho's not getting in my squad right now, but hopefully you can get someone better than what I got there. But I just really do recommend it. Like, I promise you, well, I can't promise you. I shouldn't really make guarantees. I believe you'll really, really enjoy it. I love it. I've been playing it for 15 months and I'm not bored of it at this stage. So get on it ahead of the season start so that you can build up your club during pre-season. Like I said, use the link in the description. Join my league. I won't even attempt to read out the code, but it will be linked down below if you want to just try and copy the text rather than type it in. And yeah, let's try and make it the biggest league on Club. Thank you to Club for all of the amazing support. And I really would keep your eye out because I can only see this growing and growing, and you want to get on it right now. So I am back in a situation where Salah's in the team once again. If you watch my most recent draft, Haaland was in it, and I'm still going back and forth on this. I truly am. The only draft I'm not going to have is Salah and Haaland because I want to bench boost early, and I think as soon as you chuck Salah and Haaland in, and Palmer, because I really want Palmer, and then you want to look at a Watkins, and then you want a good defense, like it just isn't possible. So for me, because I'm looking at an early bench boost in 1, 2, or 3, I won't have Salah and Haaland. So it'll be either one of Salah or Haaland. I am really toying with the idea of going for neither, which sounds like it's just crazy. But if you do Salah down to Saka, you can have all of the players I've already got, and then you give yourself an extra sort of 4.5 million. That is a lot of money to spread around the team. If you go Salah to Wirtz, you're looking at 6 million. And I know for good reason because of how good Salah is. But Salah's data in 2025 hasn't been particularly impressive, his underlying data. In pre-season so far, we've not seen that much from him. I wouldn't be surprised if we get to a point where we're like, Salah's still great, he's one of the top scoring players, but is he worth 14.5? I wouldn't be surprised if around game week 4 or 5 we start to have that discussion. But it feels a bit like, why not start with him? And then if it doesn't go well, you can downgrade. Because if you start without Salah and spread the funds around, let's say no Salah, no Haaland, spread all the funds around, and let's say I'm wrong, and let's say Salah goes absolutely nuclear in the first 3, and then he goes into Burnley away, that is a really fatal mistake to make in FPL. Like that's almost season over territory if he goes huge. Then you're forced into an early wildcard, then you've lost team value. I just don't know. I like taking risks in FPL. I'm going for a bench boost 2 at the moment, right? That's slightly unique. I don't mind taking some risks with players, but you have to pick your battles. And at the moment, I'm a bit worried that that's too much. It is a little bit of just fear. And I'm absolutely fine admitting that. That's an okay way to play FPL. But we also know what Salah can do. I also look at the way that Bournemouth are defending at the moment. And I know I've just said I've picked Petrovic, but it does feel like Salah is the best Game Week 1 captain. So he's back in. Cole Palmer, I've got a soft spot for Cole Palmer in FPL and football. I think he's fantastic. I love the fixtures, penalties, some set pieces, creativity, goal threat. I think Chelsea will have a really strong start to the season off the back of the Club World Cup. He's been in a lot of my drafts. So the other 3 players I have in my midfield after Salah and Palmer are all on the cheaper side. So I've got Marlon, Anderson, and Ndiaye. Ndiaye, I keep pronouncing that differently. I do think he's probably my favourite £6.5 million midfielder. The only reason for that, because I don't think Everton have been particularly impressive in pre-season. Again, I'm recording this before the game against Manchester United. But I like the fixtures. He should be on penalties, I think. We'll have to wait and see in terms of in the Premier League. If Beto's on the pitch and he's on the pitch and they get one, what happens? His minutes should be pretty secure as well. And I think he's a very good footballer. His underlying data in the Premier League has been absolutely atrocious. And I don't expect Everton to score tons of goals. But I just feel like at that price, you could go for Kudus. But I just don't know how that Spurs side is going to click right now. But I guess with the Maddison injury that he picked up today, maybe Kudus' minutes look a little bit more secure. I'm not tied to that £6.5 million spot. And it might even be that I take more money out and go for another 5.5. What I would ideally like to do is find $1 million and get up to someone like Eze. I think he's great. But even Ismail Assar is so underrated at 6.52. I even quite like Enzo Fernandez. I was a really big fan last season. So listen, there are lots of players around that price. For me right now, at this point, when we've still got a bit of time before Game Week 1, that isn't something I'm particularly bothered by. It's the price point of having a 6.5. I can decide nearer to Game Week 1 which one. And then, you know what I said about Anderson and Dorgu? With Anderson, I've got a defensive contribution guy. With Dorgu, I've got some attacking threat. I've done that in the midfield. So I've got 2 5.5 million midfielders. It feels silly to ignore the new defensive contribution rule, right? It feels silly to just go for like a Dinger and Marlon. But it also feels a bit boring to only go for players that got defensive. I don't want to go like Caicedo and Anderson. I'd like to have one of each. So what I've done is I've gone Anderson for the possible defensive contributions. Last season, he would have accumulated defensive contribution points in 50% or more than 50% of his games. So he will pick up 2 odd points every other game, which is great. The possible clean sheets too. And he might get some set pieces and some creativity as well. It might get you 3 or 4 assists across the season would be wonderful. And with Donyell Marlon, this is a little bit knee-jerky, right? But he's been so good in pre-season. There are rumours that Villa are looking at more loan players. They might go back in for Asensio. But as things stand, they don't have the players to not play Marlon particularly. Like they could play, for example, like McGinn, Ramsey, Rodgers, and Watkins, right? There is a situation where Marlon doesn't start. We saw that in a recent pre-season game. But every time he's on the pitch, he looks brilliant. So unless he's done something to upset Unai Emery, I just can't imagine Unai Emery, one of the best managers in the Premier League, watches Marlon in pre-season and thinks, yeah, that guy needs to sit on the bench. The only issue with Marlon is he's not going to start every game. Even if he looks brilliant, he's not Morgan Rodgers. He doesn't have that physicality. So he will not start every game. And he's not going to get close to 90 minutes. He's going to be the first one every single week off. So we're probably looking at like 65. If you're optimistic, 70 expected minutes for Marlon per game. That isn't normally the sort of pick that I will make. And you'll see that now there is no Morgan Rodgers in my midfield. I did Rodgers to Marlon to be able to spread the money a little bit more, which you'll see when you look at my forward line, it looks a little bit stronger. But then I've lost Morgan Rodgers, and Morgan Rodgers just is a better pick than Marlon. But it could be a breakout season for him. So I've put him in for now. I do like a Dingra, so maybe Anderson and a Dingra is a good combination. I don't have a West Ham defender here, so it's not like I have a clash between a Dingra and a West Ham defender, which I've had in the past. So maybe he's the sort of one I go for. Or maybe I drop all the way to someone like Baleba or Xhaka, and I just go for a 5 million mid instead. There are lots of possibilities right now, but I'm pretty happy with that midfield 5. I feel like 4 of them are nailed on in Salah, Anderson, Palmer, and NDI. Marlon's got that attacking threat. A little bit differential, but not too crazy. I think it's pretty solid. So let's look at the front 3, assess it all together, and then I'll talk in a little bit more detail about that idea of a bench boost in Game Week 2 or in Game Week 3. So guys, you know what I said with the defenders? I just picked defenders that I wanted to own. I've kind of just done that with the forward line as well. I have just picked 3 of my favourite players in FPL. So at the moment, I've got Watkins, Bowen, and Evan Ilson. Ollie Watkins, you don't need me to say is a good player. He's outscored Haaland in 2 consecutive seasons. There are rumours that Man United are in for him. If they don't get Sesko Manchester United, then there's a possibility, but it might be that Watkins decides to stay or Man United can't pay what Villa want. But regardless, you'd imagine you might get probably the first 2 games regardless of whether he moves or not. And in pre-season, the man cannot stop scoring. It's been only, I think, one of very few pre-seasons where Watkins hasn't had any sort of international football, has had no injury concerns, looks fully fit. He just looks raring to go. And we know what he can do. He is super consistent. He ticks along really nicely. But he also has those big scores in the locker. I think, was it 24, 25 pointer against Brighton a couple of seasons ago? He can score hat-tricks. He's not a man that has a low ceiling, but he's also got a pretty high floor. Like, he gets a lot of assists because he draws fouls. He's always in and around the box. I just think Watkins is an excellent FPL option. And what I like most about Watkins is his 9 million price tag. He's right in and around Gyökeres, and there is a chance that Gyökeres just comes in and breaks the game. I'm not overly convinced now, which is why Watkins is in there instead, but it's certainly a possibility. And so for that reason, I just like having Watkins in there, and the fixtures are just so good for Villa. Yes, that is a double up on Marlon and Watkins, but I have absolutely no issue with that. I want to make it very clear, I put a tweet out about this, I made this graphic this morning before West Ham had even played, and Jared Bowen was in it. I think Jared Bowen is one of the most underrated players in FPL. And I know he's actually up at like 18% overall ownership. But in terms of active people that keep posting their drafts, I'm not seeing Jared Bowen anywhere. And yes, him moving from midfield to forward, that is a big loss because he loses a little bit in terms of an extra point for a goal, extra point for a clean sheet. But otherwise, he's still the same asset. And we know what Jared Bowen can do. He's so consistent. You can rely on him for minutes. You can rely on him for returns, goals and assists. And he's got Sunderland away in Game Week 1. It's a great fixture. I actually don't mind the fixtures. Chelsea at home, Forest away, Spurs at home, Crystal Palace at home. 3 home games in the opening 5. And Jared Bowen is so talismanic. He can score in any game. The main reason, though, that I like Bowen, on top of what I've just said about all of that other stuff, is he is at such a unique and perfect price point. So I'm obsessed with price points in FPL. It's like finding players that are at a price in your team where they serve a really good purpose and they really fit a nice structure. Think about what is the most common price point for forwards in FPL at the moment. It's 7.5. You've got Wissa, who might stay or might go. You've got Havertz, probably won't get me minutes. You've got Mateta in there. You know how much I love Jean-Philippe Mateta. You've got Chris Wood. You've got João Pedro. You've got Solanke. There are tons of really good 7.5 forwards, but we don't know exactly which of them is the best. Could João Pedro and Wood's minutes come down this season? Is Solanke fully fit for Game Week 1? There is a lot to think about. And if you start with one of the other 7.5, so let's say, yeah, I'm not sure which is the best. Let me start with Chris Wood, and then after a few weeks, I can always pivot to a João Pedro or Solanke if they look good. If you start with the wrong 7.5, they will probably fall in price. And if you want to move to the right 7.5 that starts playing well, they're probably going to go up in price. You're not going to have the funds unless you make another move or leave money in the bank to pivot from 7.5 to 7.5. If you start with Jared Bowen, let's say Jared Bowen absolutely stinks it up, does nothing for the first 3 weeks, drops to 7.8 million, but you want to bring in João Pedro, who scored 3 and 3, João Pedro would have gone up a bit to probably about 7.8 million. So yes, it's not ideal bleeding team value in that way, but even if Jared Bowen doesn't work out as a pick, which I think he will, you've got such a nice pivot point to all of those other £7.5 million forwards. So I'm coming around to the idea of having him, and I'm a big Jared Bowen fan. He served me so well. If you remember, I captained him twice at the back end of last season against Spurs, was it? When he got a goal and 3 bonus, I believe it was. Jared Bowen is that guy for me, and I like owning players that I want to own in FPL. So yeah, I really like Watkins and Bowen as that too. And you would have taken a sneaky peek on the bench, I'm sure, and seen that Evan Ilson is there. So it's not like I'm sat there with Beto in my team, a really cheap third forward. And by the way, I think Beto is going to be really good if he starts the season. I've got Evan Ilson in there at 7 million. I love Even Ilson, and I'm a big data-driven manager. You guys will know that. I watch football, by the way. I come from a professional football background. I love watching football. I watch so much of it. But I am data-driven in my FPL decisions, and Even Ilson's data last season was so good. There was a point for about 10 to 12 game weeks in a row where Even Ilson was in the top 3 for non-penalty expected goal involvement consistently. I don't know exactly what he finished the season with, but I know it was super high. He's just a really, really good player. And sometimes that's enough. And the good thing is, if I'm not bench boosting in game week 1, I can pick Even Ilson, I can pick Dorgu, I can pick these players that I want to own, but I was put off previously because I wanted to have this perfect squad for game week 1, which, by the way, probably didn't exist. But I just think that Even Ilson and Strand Larsen are two players that lots of people are ignoring because they play Liverpool and City in game week 1, but they are both forwards that I would love to own. So yeah, I've managed to squeeze Even Ilson in there, but if I want to find an extra 0.5 to do, I don't know, Anderson to Mikalenko or something like that, then I can always downgrade Even Ilson to Strand Larsen. So yeah, that is the team as things stand. I would love to know what you think of it. This team is currently rated at 92% according to Fantasy Football Hub. You can get your own team rated for free, by the way. I'm going to show you in a second more of the features. But if you want to just get a bit of an objective opinion, I suppose, on what your team is looking like right now, there'll be a link down below. You upload your screenshot and it will give you a rating, a percentage out of 100. My draft is 92%. Let me know if you can beat that. It's not that high. I've done better than that, but I think it's a super strong squad and I'm really, really happy with it. After getting your free team rating using the link down below, let me know what you would rate my draft out of 100 or out of 10. Let me know what you think of this. Let me know what you think the weak spots are. If I recap it, I've got a premium defender in Van Dijk. The rest of the team, the rest of the defense is strong enough. I've got a really solid midfield 5 with no real huge weak links. And I've got a front 3, including Watkins, Bowen, and my cheapest is Even Ilson. I sent this to FPL Focal and FPL Harry, and they both liked it firstly, but Focal said to me, it looks over budget. And that was my instinct when I built it. And I always say to people, if you ever create a draft or someone sends you a draft and your immediate thought is, how can you afford that? It normally means you've put your team in a good structure. So I'm done hyping myself up because you're probably going to tell me it's terrible down below. But I'd love to know what you think of it right now. I think I'm starting to move along the right lines. So let's discuss in a bit more detail this bench boost. 1, 2, 3, and where we can see it being played. So guys, I've jumped over to Fantasy Football Hub to just do a little bit of planning ahead and show you what that bench would look like for game weeks 1, 2, 3, etc. But also just to discuss how a couple of subtle changes could obviously lead to potentially having a stronger bench in those weeks. So like I said, as of right now, I've deliberately built it with a weak bench in game week 1. That's the whole point of it, is that I've got players like, I mean, that's a rubbish bench. So there is no way I would play it with this team. But a simple change, like Petrovic to Darlow, if he's likely to start, Dorgu to Juve, Estevie to Goodmanson, and then Even Ilson to Welbeck. If you just change those 4 players on the bench, and you can do that comfortably, by the way, the 4 players that I've just mentioned are great, you then have yourself a bench boost in game week 1. So it is absolutely feasible, viable to build a bench boost in 1, and I may well go back to that. I am absolutely not ruling that out, but I like Dorgu. I like Even Ilson. I like the idea of having a 4 million defender that plays Sunderland at home in game week 2. So for that reason, I am going more and more towards a 2 or a 3. So if we skip ahead to game week 2, this is the way the team looks right now. So what I've done is I've left Van Dijk in against Newcastle because he's brilliant. I've left Williams in because these are my 2 premium defenders. So I would never realistically bench them. You could say that Estevie would be on the bench against Sunderland at home, but it's such a good fixture. If I didn't bench boost, you'd be tempted to play him. So as of right now, my bench is essentially, in game week 2, that the bench boost would be Petrovic against Wolves, Anderson against United, Dorgu against Fulham, and Marlon against Brentford. You might immediately think you've got Anderson and Dorgu playing in the same game. I don't know if this is just incorrect memory from me, but I feel like in recent times, Fulham versus United has been pretty low scoring. I could see that being 1-0 to one of the teams or 0-0. Just because they're playing in the same game, it isn't a huge issue for me. And like I said, you just can't avoid clashes. You'll see, for example, that you'll have Nottingham Forest players against Crystal Palace players in game week 2. You just can't avoid all of them. So I think it's a futile attempt to just try and have absolutely no clashes in FPL. So I don't have a huge issue with it. And then having Marlon against Brentford away, as long as he's playing, I think it's great. Now, this is the issue with starting with Marlon, is it's a risk. Like, what if he has a stinker and he's hooked in the 55th minute in game week 1? I might then have some doubts around him in game week 2. So I have to decide if I really want, and you can see, Fantasy Football Hub have him projected as 0.3 points per game. They've not updated his minutes. Algorithms and models do usually take a little bit more time to update. And maybe that's the right way to be, is to be a little bit more hesitant. But I think this is a really strong team in game week 2. And then going into game week 3, I bring in Dorgu for the Burnley at home game. So I know people think, if you've got Dorgu, surely you bench boost in 3. I just play Dorgu in my regular team in game week 3. So the bench isn't set up for Game Week 3 right now at all. So I would have to change the players that I'm picking. So rather than Petrovic, I would probably go for potentially Kelleher, right? Because he has Sunderland away. So I could go for Kelleher instead of Petrovic if I wanted to bench boost in Game Week 3. I'd still have Dorgu, but then I'd be looking for maybe a different defender to Anderson because he's got Chelsea away. So I would include potentially, I don't know, I wouldn't go double Man United defence, would I? That'd be absolutely crazy. I mean, you could even go Juve, by the way, because then he's got Sunderland Game Week 1. Nottingham Forest away isn't terrible, but then obviously there aren't any good 4 million defenders for Game Week 3. Goodmanson's got Newcastle, Estebe's got Man United away, so you would then have to find the extra 0.5. So what I would probably have to do is even Ilson down to like a Strand Larsen or a Welbeck, which isn't the end of the world, and I could upgrade that final defender. But again, I'm looking at the 4.5 defenders, and none of them have overly especially fantastic fixtures in Game Week 3. So that's why I keep coming back to the idea of a Game Week 2 bench boost instead. So do you know what? I'm going to leave it there. I don't think there's... Not that there's no point doing this right now, but I guess it doesn't matter too much. In my head, what I need to be doing is looking at these cheap assets, which ones stand out, committing soonish, I suppose, to I'm going to bench boost in 1, 2, or 3, and then it's just making subtle adjustments with those cheap assets that I'm going for. So to just go back to my team and to recap them, this is... Where is my team graphic? There it is. This is my team as things stand. Please do 2 things for me. Please make sure to subscribe if you've enjoyed that video, and also check out Club as well. Like I said, I'll link that down below. I'm wearing the Club jersey. By the way, it's probably been cut off. You haven't even seen it. You're probably thinking, what's this kit that you're wearing? Is the Club jersey. But yeah, check it out. And also, like I said, if you want to get a free team rating as well, which I recommend, why not do it? It's free, takes 2 seconds, upload a screenshot. There'll be a link down below to do that as well. So guys, there you have it. That is my current updated draft ahead of Game Week 1. It is fast approaching the deadline, but we are starting to bring everything together. I'd love to know what you think of my draft down below. And if you've got to this point in the video and you've not yet dropped a like, please do smash that like. I really appreciate it. And if you've got to this point and you're not subscribed yet, please do subscribe. Tons more daily uploads now right up until the deadline. And there'll be lots of in-season content to help you guide you through the season as well. Until next time, thank you very much. Bye-bye.